Hello YouTube, this is Hyboman here, back with episode 2 of Primetime Reviews. Last time we looked at a relatively obscure Optimus figure from the first movie, and this time we're going to look at one that everybody knows, at some level. This is a reimagining of the original G1 Optimus Prime design, one that you could say is a classic. I'm talking, of course, about the Classics Universe Ultimate Battle Deluxe Class 2-pack Optimus Prime. This toy has a bit of a bad rap, let's say, and it definitely deserves a lot of the criticism it gets. However, I do believe there are some merits to it, and if you're an Optimus Prime fan, or you like the good parts of this toy, I do think it's worth owning, provided you don't pay a hefty price for it. So let's take a look and see if you agree with me that some of the pros outweigh some of the cons. You can see here, like I said, Optimus Prime is a newer designed version of the G1 truck. As you can see, nice overall intention with the design. There are definitely major flaws, particularly with the horrible gaps you see through the sides here where what will be the arms loosely peg in. There's also no hiding his head on top. The legs are completely exposed down the back, and his feet just hang off there. So overall, the vehicle mode is not the best. It looks vaguely like what it's supposed to, even if it looks like a downgraded version of what it's supposed to. But there are a few things I like here. To start, I do like the colors. It is the classic Optimus Prime white-ish red and blue, with yellow details, a little bit of silver on there too. And silver accents on the wheels, silver up here in the headlights, things like that. Autobot symbol on both sides. So they added some detail to it to make it a little bit nicer. This table is smooth, so you can't see the wheels necessarily turning, but I promise you get this on a good surface, and it will roll decently, so at least it's a functional vehicle. And probably my favorite detail about this is the weapon, which, granted, it makes no sense being on a truck cab, but you have a little spot on there where no trailer hooks in to mount this little gun turret, which rotates at the top. It has some handles, a little scope, overall molded pretty nicely, and it's an interesting kind of weapon for him. But this is definitely the lesser of his two modes, so let's transform him to robot mode, and we'll see where most of the good points of this toy lie. So to start, unpeg both of his arms from the sides. They just tab in very loosely on these little gray tabs in here. Hold the shoulders forward, fold out the arms. Then you're going to take this whole torso section, flip it around, take the waist, and this is where the main automorph feature of this toy comes in, and one of its saving graces, I think, in terms of the design. When you fold the waist piece down, you take the entire midsection together, just by some cleverly placed hinges and springs that fold up these two little flaps that have the front wheels on them to fill out the midsection, make him a little bit skinnier, as the design is supposed to be, and then separate the legs, flip them out, and since the head is exposed, it comes out easily, and there's a little flap back here on a spring, again to fill up the hole where it was. And then his gun very easily transforms just on a set of two hinges, one to flatten out the bottom piece, and two to form a more cohesive rifle rather than a gun turret, which actually, because of its little cylindrical ammo drum, always reminds me of a Tommy gun, which is something I really think is hilarious for an Optimus Prime to have. And as you can see, the robot mode doesn't look terribly bad. Just to go through posability really quickly, his head is on a swivel, ball-jointed shoulder, bicep swivel, 90-degree elbows. No waist or anything, but we'll get to that. That's the famous part of this toy. Ball-jointed hips, thigh swivel, 90 degrees on the knee, and then his feet can tilt backwards to there from the transformation. And then I guess the wrists too can fold in and out. Honestly, what I like most about this is not necessarily the function. What I like is the way it looks. If this was just a semi-limited action figure of Optimus Prime, I could totally buy that. It's very low on kibble hanging off except for the bumper back here, basically. And even though he has kind of a surprised look on his face because his eyes are so wide, it still looks nice as an Optimus Prime. The legs, too, even if they're in sort of a muted blue color down here, they've got a lot of nice detail on them, and because they didn't transform that much, you know, they look very nice as legs. And again, he looks really nice packing this Tommy gun, which you can pose him to look like he's gonna shoot things with it. So the posability isn't great, the design isn't terribly great, but overall it looks good. And I have to say, it's interesting to pose him because he does look good enough that posing him like this, it looks like a perfectly passable toy. With that being said, we now get to the piece of this toy that, if you know this toy, you've been waiting for, and that is its gimmick. It's supposed to have, with the push of this button, a power punch, I'll say. So, you know, you get him in a punching position like this. And what you're supposed to do is take this piece and push it so that he punches, but instead you get good old Floptimus Prime going on. Which, you know, it works. It's definitely dynamic, I'll say that. But obviously, even without me pushing the button, it's pretty terrible. Now, one thing that does save this and helps me to ignore it is the fact that it locks. All you do is take the same button you would push to activate it and just pull it till it clicks, which locks his torso in. I generally don't use the gimmick at all. I just leave it like this, keeping him solid. And that's really what he is overall, just a solid, generic, nice-looking Optimus Prime toy. If you like the toy, or if you're like me and we're like, oh, I want to see what's so bad about this toy, and then you're interested in getting it for those reasons, I think it's worth it, provided you get it for, you know, what would be a good price for the deluxe or for the 2-pack. And because it is a 2-pack, depending on what version you get, some, like the one I got, came with 3 mini-cons. The Megatron also has some flaws, like the feet are assembled backwards and things like that, but you can fix that. And overall, they're both pretty passable toys, and they come well together, I think. Other than that, I'd say if you're like a hardcore Optimus Prime fan and need to have them all, it's not terrible, but definitely one of the lesser ones. But, you know, I think it's worth owning just for the fact that it's not as bad as the hype makes it out to be, I think. And it's interesting to look at it as, let's see if we can find the good pieces of this from all the bad things that people say about it. With that being said, it does have one design element, which I'm going to bring up now, which happens a lot, I think, in Optimus Prime designs, new, old, bad, good, what have you. And that is that because they all have to follow a similar scheme, end up with the truck cab on the chest, arms from the sides, blue legs out the back, things like that, their transformations all take similar design notes. So for example, arm transformation, relatively simple, leg transformation, usually extremely simple, and the interesting trick, which again I said is one of my favorite design elements on this, the ingenuity always seems to come in the torso transformation. You need to figure out how to get this part of the truck to look like it's part of the robot without just doing what the G1 toy did and leaving some big gaps in there. So with that being said, let's cut over to the group shot. And with 2 reviews out of the way, we have 2 primes on the couch. The group shot is getting bigger, and it will only continue to grow as we continue primetime reviews. So, this is Hyboman with Deluxe Class Ultimate Battle 2-Pack Classics Universe, whatever, Optimus Prime, or Floptimus Prime as he's sarcastically known. And I am signing off for now. See you next time on the Primetime Reviews.